2018 is going to be a year, hopefully, with a lot of hardware coming from Apple, because right now, not much is happening. But sadly, that also means the death of the sales of a lot of hardware that Apple currently sells. So today we're going to be talking about all of the poor devices Apple makes that in probably just about a month will no longer be available. Definitely some of these are expected, some of them are a bit sad to see go, but there's no denying that there is quite a few devices Apple's not going to be selling after this next keynote. Hopefully for the better of the lineup, hopefully all this new hardware is going to be good enough for us. It's going to satisfy the upcoming generations of people who are buying Apple tech, but no doubt, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be upset that probably the first thing to go is the iPhone SE. Yes, the 4-inch iPhone will likely no longer be sold by Apple because Apple likes to move all of their lineup down one when new iPhones come out. And now that the release of the next iPhone is less than a month away, that means that they're likely going to be phasing out that 4-inch iPhone for good alongside the iPhone 6s. And in case some of you forget what was the significance of these iPhones, those were the last remaining iPhones Apple was selling that still sported the headphone jack. That means that the entire lineup of iPhones that Apple will be selling, whether they're cheap or expensive, now none of them will still be sporting the headphone jack. So before, I used to use the argument with you, if you still want a headphone jack, buy an iPhone 6s or buy an iPhone SE. I can't even use that argument anymore unless you go third party. You can go third party. So yeah, I'm actually going to keep using that argument. But at least from Apple, those will no longer be sold. Of course, they'll be getting new iOS updates. As Apple this year has shown, iOS 12 is coming to iPhones they don't even sell anymore, like the 5S. Can you imagine if Google did that? But yes, to the people who liked that boxy looking iPhone SE and preferred the 4-inch iPhone screen size, I'm sorry. The time has come. Apple is axing that off, and most likely the SE and the 6S and 6S Plus will all be moving on, and now the budget option in the iPhone territory will be the iPhone 7. But don't fret too much because the iPhone 7 is likely going to get a price reduction as well, potentially even starting at $450 for the small version, which for an iPhone 7 in directly from Apple in brand new condition isn't too bad. Now, as we're also talking about iPhones that are going to be discontinued, the iPhone 10 is most likely going to be getting discontinued, not the one you're thinking of. The one that came out in 2017 that we're all using right now. It is immediately going to be replaced by the 2018 version that will likely have updated camera, maybe a little bit better display, but still at that same screen size and same form factor, now sporting an A12 chip with, of course, a new fresh lithium battery you'll be buying with it. So while yes, the 2017 iPhone 10 will no longer be available, there will be an immediate response to it that will likely cost $900 instead of $1,000. So this overall is actually a good thing. They don't need to keep selling last year's iPhone because it's slower and it'll cost more compared to this year's 5.8-inch 10, which will look very similar, except it will come in a copper gold color, have an A12 chip, and start at $900 instead. So that's all good, and we might as well mention this while we're talking about iPhones getting discontinued. The product red iPhone 8 with those black bezels on the front, the red back that looks so good. While it does look amazing, I think the purpose of that addition is to be limited time, and if it goes the way the iPhone 7s did last year, once the iPhone 8 and 10 came out, you could no longer order an iPhone 7 in product red. We're anticipating it'll be a very similar situation this year, and the product red iPhone 8 will no longer be available in just one more month. So if you desperately want a product red 8 and you don't want to go refurbished or buy third party, sadly, now's the time to get it. So now moving on from iPhones, we're getting into a bit of a confusing lineup. Of course, the Apple Watch Series 4 with that improved display is coming out next month. That means that Apple most likely is going to be discontinuing one of the two Apple Watch brands they sell right now. Series 1 that starts at $250 but is missing some of the features that the Series 3 has. Or will they just discontinue the Series 3 entirely and replace it with the Series 4? This could go many different ways, and I don't see many people talking about it. In case you're saying, well, they'll just sell the Series 2, they don't sell the Series 2 right now, and as bizarre as it would be to bring it back and keep selling it again, I don't think they're going to do that. Series 2 is history, sadly, which definitely confuses the lineup, but what do you guys think Apple's gonna do? Are they going to keep selling the Series 1 at that $250 starting price, discontinue the Series 3 and instead replace it with the Series 4 and just say, if you're going to be spending over $300 on a new Apple Watch, you will be getting the Series 4? Or would you guys prefer what I would like to see and have the Series 1 discontinued, lower the price of the current Series 3, and then the current pricing we have right now replaced with the Series 4? That way, people who want to get in the Apple Watch game will have a very competitive price point with the Apple Watch Series 3 now starting $250 instead of $330 as it is now. I think that would be great. Instead, we just have two Apple Watches, one that's really cheap, one that's decently cheap, and both are good. They've got the newest hardware, they've got the newest features, GPS standard, cellular available for both options, the best water resistance out there, speakers that support Siri talking out loud. That way we can have continued support with watchOS for both of the Apple Watches coming out. Or they could pull a wild card, keep selling the Series 3, keep selling the Series 1, and then introduce a new price point for the Series 4 because it has a larger display, obviously. It should cost more, and then they're actually going to be selling 3 different series of Apple Watches simultaneously. Either way, though, one of these Apple Watches is probably going to go unless they go with Plan C with the wild card bet, but my guess is that they're going to discontinue either the Series 1 or the 3. Which one do you think? Another piece of very, very sad news that I know a lot of diehard Apple fans out there love, Apple is most likely going to be discontinuing the iPad Mini 4 after this next event. That's right. If you're hoping on getting an iPad Mini 4, which by the way, currently starts at $400 and you can only get it in a 128 gigabyte option, which is weird. Yeah, I know. I guess they didn't sell a lot of those, so they're probably just trying to get rid of as many of them as they can. We need to get rid of all the 128 gig iPad Mini 4s as fast as we possibly can, but sadly, I think Apple was seeing the iPad Mini as a cheaper option to get people into iPads, and now, with the 2018 iPad being out there, they would rather people buy that if they're looking for budget tablets, and sadly, if you're out there hoping that Apple was going to make an 8-inch iPad again, I think it just doesn't make sense with the lineup anymore, especially when 2018 is going to be the year when Apple starts selling 6.5-inch iPhone displays. When you have iPhone screens that are now over 6 inches, it doesn't really make sense to keep selling a tablet that's not even at 8 inches, other than aspect ratio differences. So I hear your complaints. I know that all of you out there love the iPad Mini 4, but we're getting more and more reports saying it's literally just about to be discontinued, and then you have to buy it from a third party, and Apple will no longer be making them. Hopefully you'll be satisfied enough with the new iPads that are coming out. And just like with the iPad Pros last year, they discontinued the first generation iPad Pros as soon as the new ones came out. So now we're going to have iPads with Face ID, no home button, no Touch ID, same size bezel all the way around. We have to wonder, with these new iPads coming in, are they also going to discontinue last year's iPad Pros? Does that mean, just like that, if you're hoping for a premium iPad Pro, you no longer can have Touch ID and a home button? They're just going to stop selling it altogether? Or are they going to introduce it as a new naming scheme and say, these are the iPad Pro 10s, and last year's are just the regular iPad Pros, and they'll just keep selling them side by side in case anyone out there wants to keep Touch ID and wants to keep the home button. I think that would be smart, especially if they're able to lower the price point, and last year's iPad Pros get a price reduction. Maybe they start at $500 now for that 10.5-inch iPad. That would be really competitive, but then we'd have that new entry-level price with the new, somewhat bezel-less iPad Pros that have Face ID. I'm very curious to see how their iPad lineup goes. And without much of a surprise, if this new budget MacBook really is happening, we could very easily see the discontinuation of the MacBook Air. In just one more month, maybe they'll decide, you know what, aluminum bezels, no Retina display, old-style USB ports, maybe this doesn't make sense to keep on selling. I think it really depends on when they release that new budget MacBook to take its place in the lineup, which may be at this next keynote, maybe it won't, but still, 2018, you should expect the MacBook Air probably to be saying bye-bye to the Apple Store. So that sums up most of what we might see discontinued this year. Yeah, it is quite a stackingly large list, and maybe I'll just throw in there the iPod Touch. Might get discontinued anytime. No, how can they do? I understand you're upset, but you can literally find an iPhone SE refurbished or used for cheaper than an iPod Touch, and it is a better product overall. So I'm sorry, you might just have to not buy it directly from Apple, but you're saving money and you're getting a better product. So there's no reports saying they're killing the iPod Touch. You can relax, but I'm just saying every single time they refresh that Apple Store, I'm always thinking iPod could be gone the next hour. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Hasn't yet. Maybe it'll stretch into 2019. We'll see. But let me know, what do you guys think of all these products getting discontinued? Which ones are you going to miss, or which ones do you think definitely need to be discontinued? Maybe like the MacBook Pros without touch bars. Why do they still have the 7th generation CPUs? Maybe don't discontinue them, just update them. But all that good stuff, let me know in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.